Hello, and welcome back to the Lorna Whiston Schools podcast, the place where we connect with parents from around the globe to share our experiences on a variety of topics. We are a leading school and have been based in Singapore for over 40 years. We specialize in developing a lifelong love for learning, and our focus is on working with our parents to develop their children's 21st century skills, transforming them into the talented, critical thinkers of tomorrow. I am your host, Renee Stone, head of Lorna Whiston Schools, and I'm delighted to be speaking with Miss Michaelina Turrell, a very popular English enrichment teacher, entrepreneur, and motivational coach. Welcome, Michaelina.
Hi, Renee. Good to see you and good to hear you again. Thank you so much for this time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It's great being here with you again.
I know.
So today in our podcast, we'll be focusing on strategies that we use to empower youth to cope with the challenges of life. So in Singapore of late, we know that there have been a number of tragic events unfold that have affected the lives of many teenagers and society in general. We are living in unprecedented times, and we know that the impact on our teenagers and youth can be very intense. Today, we'll be discussing how we can support them through these times. So, Michaelina, we're both very familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, as it clearly represents what humans need in order to survive and then to thrive. So, based on your experiences working with youth, can you please share with us how important these needs are in the life of our students?
Thank you, Renee. Thank you for sharing. So obviously, most of us know about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And the basic needs are biological and physical needs at the bottom of the pyramid. So that's food, water, ability to, sleep in a safe environment. These are all basic needs. Unfortunately, in some countries in the world, these needs are not met, and therefore children are still struggling either to get to school or have these basic needs met. But in Singapore, majority of us have the basics. Mm-hmm. So therefore, our children are very lucky and our teenagers are very lucky, because then obviously we look at psychological needs. So psychological needs about being loved, all right, and belonging somewhere. Whether it's to a school, a community, a place, and who loves us and how are we loved. And then obviously from there, we look at self-esteem, and this is huge. Teenagers go through a lot of self-esteem issues. Right. They can be very loud. They can be very confident, and all of a sudden their hormones kick in and they go to high school or secondary school and they get very quiet. They sit in their rooms and their parents are pulling out their hair thinking, what am I doing wrong? Right. And then obviously you have the whole self-esteem, and after self-esteem is at the top of the pyramid, self-actualization. I think most grown-ups are still trying to get to the top of the pyramid, right? Let alone teenagers, bless them. But, this was a very traditional outlook. And, for the modern millennial, should we say, their perspective is a little bit different. So I'll just share with you briefly about how Maslow hierarchy looks to a modern millennial in this day and age. So Maslow's hierarchy of basic needs is now represented by a digital need for youths. Their self-actualization is in the forms of Pinterest and YouTube. So if you have a YouTube channel and you are making money and a Pinterest board, you are at the top, right? At the pyramid. Wow. You've got it. You've got it.
You've nailed it.
Right? Exactly. Especially if you're making more money than your parents from your YouTube channel, you've definitely got it. And there's a lot of teenagers.
There are some like that. That's right.
A lot of teenagers now who make more money, than a teacher, should we say, from their YouTube channel. Then under that, obviously, when it comes to esteem, their needs are met by Instagram, so therefore they're looking at things on Instagram, and that whether it's good or, or bad, while love and belonging is determined by the numbers of like on Facebook. So when they post something, they're looking for the reaction. I got 100 likes on Instagram or Facebook. Oh my God, it's gone viral. It's been shared, and that makes the person feel good. The gratification is quite instant. They don't have to wait a couple of weeks. Normally within a couple of hours, it's quite instant. These channels are where the youth seek and fulfill, their fulfillment and insurance. and forms their self-identity. So they're basically looking at something, liking something, and if you've been on Facebook or you've Googled something, it kind of tells you 3 other things about that topic you've Googled that day. So you're like, oh, great. Parents and child relationships, therefore, can be affected because children are so into social media. They're so into Facebook and WhatsApp and, YouTube and things like this, that quality time therefore lacks because they're getting the gratitude from their mobile phone, but they've forgotten how to have a real conversation, or build real relationships. And obviously we know these kind of relationships take longer for somebody to like you. If you make friends with them, then somebody just clicking on something and saying, oh, I like that. Okay. So the gratification is not there straight away. So for us in the past, if somebody wrote us a letter, gave us a hug, our friendship developed after 2 or 3 months, we would say, oh, yes, our psychological needs have been, we can tick that box. Where with children these days, it's, have I got a like? Has my video gone viral? That to them is something that they look for. So the same pyramid, but maybe slightly different gratification outcomes at the end of it.
Right. I think you've raised a wonderful point. And the point is that life is so different for our youth today compared to what it was like for us growing up with the instant gratification. And with that, there's always positives and challenges that come with it. Yeah. So it's being aware of what drives them, what motivates them to feel the need to be valued, to be loved, for belonging. So thanks for sharing that. That was really interesting. So touching on, you did mention then about the relationships, because you were saying about how inevitably relationships will be slightly different because obviously there's not now that time to connect or discuss as much as there was in the past. So can you share a little bit on the importance of relationships, Michaelina?
So now we've determined from Maslow, we've got the basic needs: food, water, love, self-esteem, and we're getting it from, somewhere, some sort of source, whether it's parents, friends, or, social media. Then obviously we have to look on board about relationships. And according to Erickson, on his stage 4, there's a couple of stages here on the model of life. His psychosocial development. Those stages, so those aged between 5 and 11, begin to develop a sense of pride in their accomplishment and abilities. So coping with new social and academic demands. Success leads to a sense of competence and feeling of inferiority from failure. So basically, if we tell a child at early stages in life that they're not doing very well, can you do better? Why haven't you got 100 out of 100? Why are you not like your siblings? They're already going to start feeling a little bit inferior. Right. And that's going to knock their self-confidence. So therefore, it's very important that with relationships, parents, teachers, helpers, aunties, uncles, build on a child's self-esteem and, let them know they can do it. So use positive words of reinforcement rather than negative, words in a way of trying to motivate them. And I think, we've all been there. We've all tried to say, well, I know I have. My parents have said things, especially my father, has said things to me that are quite negative to try and motivate me.
Right, reverse psychology.
Yeah, reverse psychology, he said.
A lot of people said that.
It's meant to harden me up, he said. But obviously, when you are 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 years old and you've got the world against you and you've got hormones in you, raging and you're trying to figure the world out and what you like. Sometimes that does not work. And sometimes hard parenting does affect a child and how they feel about themselves, and they're not able to get themselves to a better place. So therefore, I think it's very important to have positive relationships, whether with parents, aunties, grandparents, friends, teachers, coaches, football coaches. These relationships are very important to us. Yeah. And the relationships can be very small. It could be for the fact that a child gets on the school bus and the fact the school driver knows the child's name and acknowledges them in the morning. That child then kind of feels, somebody knows me in this world. I'm appreciated. It can be something small as like the bus driver just saying hello to that person, or you just saying hello. But the fact that you've acknowledged somebody or acknowledged the child makes them feel wanted. So it can be a very small act. Also, relationships. I know some parents are very busy. Well, a lot of parents are very busy this day and age. And it's the conversation you have with your child. Are you having the conversation of, have you done your homework? Have you eaten? Have you had a shower? Where's this? Is that the kind of conversation you're having? Or when was the last time you really sat down and had a proper conversation? Like, how are you feeling? What's your day looking like? These kind of questions. So I know some parents are very busy, and I had one father once who was very successful, very busy, but he used to always drive his son to school in the morning, because he said as the day got on, he said, yes, I can send my son in a grab, I can put him on the bus, but that's not the point. He's like, I'm very busy. And so therefore I would like to drive my son to school every day, because in that 20 minutes, half an hour, I share my day, he shares his day, and we actually have a conversation with each other before we both go on our journey. And the day gets busy. And then if I'm working late to meetings, I don't get home. I don't sometimes make it for dinner. They go to sleep, but at least I know I'll see him the next morning. So it's just taking that time out.
Yes.
It's not like you have to stop your life, but it could be something like a 20-minute car ride that the child then really appreciates that time. And because you spent that time with them and shown them interest in their lives, they feel valued, they feel loved, they feel engaged, and that will also help with their own self-worth and self-esteem.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's such an important point about the quality time together. And I know that you will fondly recall when you had quality time with your parents, your siblings, likewise. You remember that they take moments out of their life, their busy schedule, to spend time with you, to actively engage, to talk through any issues that we had. Our parents were always there to listen. And I know that's what every parent wants to do, is just be that listening ear. But active listening is becoming so much harder now because of so many demands that are put on parents. And I guess it's also going back to technological gadgets and things like that. So really, parents are not able to fully switch off when they are at home all the time. So I think that is such a great example of that father dedicating the morning to drive the child to school, to have that time to connect, because often in those conversations, that's when you can learn a lot about what's going on in the life of the child.
And also, Renee, when I first started teaching, you go in, you teach a lesson, and obviously the children leave your room. And it's things like break time, lunchtime, when there's free time, and you actually start talking to the children. I remember taking the children on field trips. And so I learned a lot about the children outside the classroom, because I was having to spend 4 or 5 days with them in, in a very cold seaside location, looking at, seashores and rivers and meanders. But, it was so much fun, and you got to actually know the child and they got to know you. And then all of a sudden, when it came to like Teachers' Day and Christmas, they would start giving me things. And I was thinking, wait a minute, this is stuff I actually like pink lipstick and bright scarves and necklaces. And if you know me, or anybody knows me, I wear a lot of bright, things. And
Miss Michaelina's students, take note, please.
And I was like, how do they know what I like? And it's because you are in the classroom with the children probably longer, and you spend more time with the children than you do your own family. And so therefore that relationship with the children, you build over the years, and they are very observant about you. And a lot of times the children have actually saved me from, hard days. And I'm having a bad day, they'll come in and say, Miss, are you okay? They've shown me empathy. When you're going through and you've taught some really difficult classes, they say, are you all right, Miss? Are you okay? And then when they come and bring you gifts, for example, not that I'm encouraging gifts here, but when they do bring you gifts, you think, how do you know I like this? And it's because in the lesson, they're not just looking and listening to your subject, they're actually watching you, and they're very observant. So sometimes the relationship can be spoken. Sometimes the relationship with children is unspoken. And sometimes it's just the acknowledgement when a child comes in the room and you give them a little nod, like, one of them days, is it? Or are you okay? And they don't want to talk about it, but it's just the behavior and the language, the unspoken language. So relationships can be verbal, they can be with different people, but also they can be spoken and unspoken. In the classroom, for example.
Right. And I love the way that you just said that they had also helped you through certain days as well, because it's that modeling of the adults in their life that is really important, and showing that empathy. And that's what active listening is all about. So it's just beautiful that they find that it is a nurturing environment. And I think that's, as you say, we're very blessed as educators to be given this opportunity. So along with making sure that the children are safe and all of their needs are being met, obviously the question about how do we define success is always raised. Now, we know that nobody can be successful without having emotional intelligence as well. It's just you need that coupled with the intellect, right? It's not just one thing. It's a combination of everything. And that's why holistic development is so important. So would love to hear your thoughts, Michaelina, and sharing how we can frame success.
So I think a lot of times, obviously, in modern society, people are book smart, they're grade smart. Okay. So yes, you need to get 100 out of 100 or 90 or 95, or, you've got to get an A, an A star, or an 8 or a 1, or whatever the scale, the grading scale is. So I think people are measured on their grades, but when they're asked an opinion or to solve a problem, they struggle with basic communication skills and personal expression. So somebody could be great on paper. I mean, like a student, or even like an adult could be great on paper. And then you interview them, for example, or they come and teach a lesson. I'm just using teaching as an example. And you're like, oh, so your expectation of what's on paper maybe is very different, or their grades is very, very different. But I think it's students as well. I think we can't judge students by their grades. Right. I think we definitely have to see it like the whole child. Yes. Are they good at communication? Are they able to express their feelings? And I think sometimes when you ask a child how you're feeling, they look like bloodshot eyes. They look like, what's she asking me? Where do I get the answer from?
Right. Is there a right or wrong?
Am I going to get into trouble? I'm like, no, you're not going to get into trouble. I want to know how you are feeling. Right. What is your emotions? You can be mad. You can be angry. Sure. You can be happy. You can show excitement. These are normal feelings in life. So I think, therefore, you have to understand, the whole child. I think you can't just look at grades. I think you also do need to look at, what their hobbies are. Are they artistic? Are they musical? Are they, can they adapt to certain environments? Can they adapt to change? You're looking at soft skills, people skills. Like I say, the children saved me a few times, when I was teaching, like empathy. Yes. Miss Turrell, it's okay. It's going to be all right today. You don't have to see that class again till next week. All right, thanks.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
The fact that they show empathy, are they aware of situations around them, not just caught up in their, in their own head. So I think, being a teenager is very challenging. Also, them trying to feel like they're going to get the grades, they're just judged on their grades. And when they're not, getting the grades or achieving, that's when they start feeling like failure. And then their self-esteem starts to wobble. And then if, for example, they don't feel they're getting the grades and they put something up on social media and they didn't get 100 likes compared to last time and they only got 75, their world is like, oh my God, right. What used to give them the reassurance isn't giving them the reassurance now. And I'll just share with you, when I worked, in the UK, I had a child come up to me and he said to me, Miss, I don't know if I want to go to university. And I said, well, why do you have to go to university? He said, well, I've been told I have to go to university, like college, university. That's what I'm being told I have to do. And I said, okay, well, Why don't you want to go? He said, I don't think it's a very good use of my time. I said, oh, okay, then fair enough.
Right. Interesting.
And why wouldn't it be a very good use of your time?
Right.
He was like, well, miss, what I'm doing now, I just think it's a better use of my time. And I was like, well, what are you doing? And so I started getting very interested because I was thinking, this is quite strange. It seems to, he's got a bit of a heavy heart. He's being told he has to do something he doesn't want to do. So maybe I need to, find out what he's actually doing with himself,
right.
as a 16-year-old teenager, what is going on in his world.
Right.
So as I started to unravel, I realized that he's very successful online. And he's making very good money online.
Amazing. Right.
Probably more money than I was making after graduating from 3 universities. So,
Amazing. Yeah.
So I said to him, oh, so he was like, well, I can continue doing what I am doing, but people around me are telling me I need to go to university.
Right.
So I said, oh, so then I had to step back and I was like, just because my dad or my parents told me I had to go to university, maybe that was fine for my generation.
Mm-hmm.
But with millennials these days, they have a different way of working.
Right.
If they've got their own YouTube channel, for example, and they're making a substantial amount of money already, they're probably thinking, I'm going to continue on this path. Why am I going to, for example, get into debt or have to pay when I'm already on a path where I'm making, I've got a little bit of financial freedom.
Right.
So I kind of thought to myself, well, that's really smart. I said, well, it's not in my position to tell you if you need to go to university. I think I need to encourage you on your journey of being online or doing what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And I think he just needed a grown-up to tell him it's okay. Mm-hmm. So sometimes children, when they share things with you, it's not that they're looking for answers. They just want somebody to say, it's okay with what you're doing.
Right.
You don't have to follow everybody else if that's your journey. And if you don't want to go on to further education, it's okay. Mm-hmm. So I checked in with him a few years later, and he said he's working from a beach in Thailand. Obviously, I'm not bitter at all about this is obviously
not envious.
Not at all, pre-COVID times, and he was doing extremely well. And he actually is studying, but he's studying something that he's interested in.
Great.
He has gone back to study, but he just felt at that time in his life, he needed to get himself up financially free. So that's very interesting because when I was that age at 16, I did not even think about this. I was just thinking about my next exams. Where am I going to go to university? So the fact children these days or youth or teenagers these days think in a different way, we also have to take that into consideration when, we're looking at success.
Yes.
So the journey of success for us or what our parents told us, whether it's morals, values, ethics, might not be the same for your child or somebody who is younger now.
Right.
Just due to technology and obviously accessibility to things in the global climate.
Yeah. I think that's a really important point to take note of. What looks like successful in one eyes may be very different. And at the end of the day, as you say, as long as there is that happiness, contentment, that they have made that right decision and they've got the soft skills, the adaptability, the grit to cope with any other change that happens in life, then that is what everyone wants for their child.
Exactly.
Right.
And happiness, definitely.
Yes.
Happiness.
Yeah. That's so true. So we were talking at the beginning of the podcast about the many challenges that are happening at the moment in society in general, because not only are our youth dealing with the challenges of their youth, but they're also dealing with a pandemic thrown in that has lasted for quite some time. So what are some coping strategies that you would recommend for the youth to be able to develop resilience during this period of time?
Okay, so when you put resilience into Google, it always tells you lots of different things.
Right, of course.
And there's a whole list. Whole list. But I've got 8. They're not very short. They're a little bit long, but I've narrowed it down to 8. So here we go.
Okay, fantastic.
Okay. Number 1, a growth mindset.
Yeah.
There is no such thing as perfectionism. So we're not going to be perfect. We can try,
Right.
but we just have to have a growth mindset and realize we keep trying at something. And so that's number one. Number two, affirmations. It is okay to fail. Pick yourself up and try again.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
So tell yourself positive things. Stick positive, like Post-it notes around your room, and fill your space and your environment with bright colors and positive words. Number three, humor. If you haven't noticed yet, I probably have a lot of this.
You have a great sense of humor. You absolutely do.
And I've managed to survive education this long and teaching, especially in the UK, with, yes, I would say humor and banter, definitely. Okay. So being able to laugh at a situation and definitely laugh at yourself. So not take the situation too serious. Because sometimes when you're in a situation, it's out of your control. So don't take it too personally if you don't achieve, because sometimes there are other forces out there for the reason why you haven't achieved. And if you've come from a sporting background and you've just been watching the Olympics, maybe it's not your time yet.
Right. Absolutely. So, well said. That is true.
So some of the athletes there, they've been to 4 Olympic Games, and when they got them, their medals, or 3 or 2. And so for me, when I watched the Olympics in Tokyo, I was like, how can you keep going? Like,
it's amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
4, 8, 12, 16. I'm like, 16 years.
Yes.
Just trying to get a gold medal.
Right.
I know some of us, if we can't, run down to the end of the road, we give up and come home for ice cream.
Ben and Jerry's, please.
Exactly. So I think it's just, pure resilience to keep going.
Absolutely.
Day in, day out, and just to get to the next 4 years and the next 4 years. Yes. So on the back of that, plan for success. Always do your best, hold your head up high, and don't give up. As long as you give your best effort, that's all we ask for.
Absolutely.
So you can look at yourself in the mirror every single day and say, I really tried. For teaching, I taught my best lesson, or I tried my hardest in that exam. I tried in my interview, or, whatever it is you're going for. If you can look at yourself and say, it's the best I could do, that's good enough.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So just plan for success. Empathy. So getting out of your own head.
Yeah.
A lot of us are in our own head. And when we're looking at social media, we're more in our own heads. Whether when you're a teenager, it's, well, I'm not pretty. Am I too thin? Am I too big? They're prettier, or they have a nice handbag car. Whatever it is that you see, we're always comparing. So get out of your own head and put yourself in someone else's shoes. So for this week, for example, students have been going back to international schools, and they're so worried about, how they're going to feel on their first day. But I said, but how about if you made friends with somebody else and focus the energies on somebody else's first day and making their first day and being their buddy? You haven't really got much time to think about yourself, but you've made a new friend. So look out for the person who's feeling a little bit shy or nervous, and go over there and be their buddy and their friend. And therefore you're not in your own head, but you're helping somebody. So thinking about somebody else and putting yourself in their shoes.
That is such great advice. Sorry, just getting in that. Such great advice for the students, because how often do people just dwell on what they are doing rather than what others are doing and how they can help? And it goes back to your point previously on kindness. And any small act of kindness can have such a ripple effect. So great point.
Definitely. Thank you, Renee. You're very kind. You're very kind to change, and you'll show empathy all the time.
As do you.
You're very good at that. Number 6, positive outlook. The glass is always full.
Yeah.
Okay. So try and have your glass always full. Some days it can be a little bit more empty. We are allowed to have them days. We are all human.
Yes, that is true. That is true.
And in some hours, or maybe half an hour, you are allowed to be totally empty. But majority of the time, your glass is always full, and you have a positive outlook on life. Number 7, goal setting. So set goals. And when you don't achieve them, it's okay.
Yeah.
Do not give up. Most entrepreneurs or successful people, if you go to the library and you read books, they will tell you they kept trying. They kept trying. They started off with a lemonade store and now they own I don't know, some multi-million, dollar company,
Right.
or they're flying to, into space. But it all started somewhere. So don't give up. Just change the process. So if you're not being successful and you're not getting the results, whether it is, playing a musical instrument, running, exam results, anything it is, getting that job, just change the process and the goalposts. So instead of making you feel bad about yourself for not achieving, all right. So in coaching, there's no such thing as failures. We say we just change the process and we just change the goalposts. And maybe there's a different way of achieving.
Yeah, great point. Keep the passion, but change the goalposts. I like that.
Yep. And the last one, number 8, mind over matter. God, this one's hard sometimes, isn't it? But mind over matter. You are the driver in your life. So you take control of your life and you do not give the power to somebody else to control your car or your life when you are driving it. Okay. So I definitely believe that, you should always be in control. Sometimes it's hard. You can't be, especially when you're a teenager because you're living at home still. And there is external, factors, but definitely, mind over matter and try and, put the car in that direction that you want to go in and don't let other people steer you off course.
Yeah. Look, Michaelina, these are such fantastic points on strategies that even adults can use to make sure that we display resilience and that we can cope with things. And mind over matter, looking at emotional coping, problem solving coping. How do we do that best to keep on shining and be the best version of us? And that is exactly what I hear your courses do for your students, because you have been running motivational camps for quite some time now. And we've heard some great success stories, wonderful testimonies from our students. So we would love for you to share with the audience more about how you feel that these programs of yours will benefit their child.
Okay, so this September holidays, if you've got youth that are at home in their bedrooms and you are thinking of something for them to do for a couple of hours for 5 days from 5 to 7 o'clock, then sign them up and I will look after them. So we've got motivational youth transition coaching, a bit of a mouthful, but I'll just explain to you what that is. Right. So some of you are probably thinking, what is a coach? So the coach or a coaching process is moving a student forward. So I'm not a counselor, so I'm not looking at the past, but I'm looking about how to move your child or the student forward in the future. So motivating them to achieve in the future. So therefore, if you're looking at youth development, I would say a child or youth or teenager develops at different times. They're transitioning at different times. Right. So I would break it down into 3. Physical, meaning bodies, hormones everywhere. You're probably arguing with them, locking themselves in their room. That's their hormones. It's not you. It's not them. It's not personal. That's physical change. Then you've got environmental change. So they're changing school, year, countries. They don't know how to vocalize what they're feeling in their bodies, but now obviously they're changing schools, years, class sets. So environmental changes. And then you've also got mental changes of transition. So basically, like we said in Maslow's pyramid and hierarchy, is their confidence level. All of a sudden, they were the confident child. Now they're hiding away. They don't believe in themselves. They're comparing themselves to other teenagers. They do it better. They're prettier. They're stronger. They're more intelligent. And they kind of get a little bit introverted. Right. So then what happens with on the camp is we provide a safe space, an environment for the youth to explore their inner voices and freedom to express without judgment. So it's, it's online. They have the safety of their own room at home. A lot of students say they do prefer this because it takes away the embarrassment of having to go and make new friends, people they don't know from other schools. So they have the safety of being in their own house. And it's online. They can join in, and basically the children will learn coaching techniques on how to get through life.
Right.
So they will learn coping techniques to navigate through different phases of their life. And the benefits of the program is empowers students, their social, emotional, educational confidence to achieve. They increase students' motivational levels, and that results in success and happiness. And I think we've definitely been talking about how happiness is very important, not just the marks or the grades. And the last one, learning life skills. So like I say, when you interview somebody speaks, can they think on their feet? You know, can they show empathy? So we're talking about learning life skills to help students achieve their goals and obviously work on their dreams in the future. So that's just a little snippet of what we're going to be doing in a couple of weeks' time in the September holidays.
That is so exciting. And I love the point that you mentioned about the youth are actually in the comfort of their own home. Yes. And that is what makes it so special for them, because they don't feel vulnerable going into a new environment, but they just feel like there is an element of control that they still have because it's in their home. But yet the content of the course is so empowering for the children and for the students, the youth for this course that you're running. So we are delighted to be having that available for our students at Lorna Whiston Schools and Lorna Whiston Online.
Okay. Well, thank you, Renee. And if any parents are out there or even students who are listening and, you know, you have got things that are in your head and you want somebody to talk to, and maybe you haven't found that person yet that you can share your inner thoughts and voice with. In Singapore, there is a few helplines. There's chat mental health. You'll happily, Google them. The information will come up, and they're for children who are 15 years and above. But if you are 13, 14, you can still call them and they will still speak to you. If you are primary years and 12 years and under, you can speak to somebody at Tinkle Friend. Also Google their details and you will see a helpline and a number that will come up. And maybe that's a safe space for somebody you can talk to who is a professional, and you can share what's on your heart and what's on your mind with them.
Michaelina, thank you so much, because as we were talking about before, it's not a sign of weakness if people need help. People need to be there to help each other, to support each other, and to empower each other to rise. So thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Renee.
It was a pleasure having you with us. And yes, we would absolutely strongly encourage as many parents who are interested in signing your youth up to attend these really rich content courses that will help to empower your child and really get them to realize their self-worth. And that's really important. So that will be in Miss Michaelina Turrell's motivational coaching courses. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you have enjoyed it as much as we have enjoyed hosting it. Do send us any questions you might have, or share with us an encouraging story about strategies that you or your teenager has used to cope with the challenges of life.